welcome back to Peaks 47. So as you can see, I've been quite busy in this area. It's coming on quite a lot now. I've just added some details on the loading dock. Just put some old crates that have just fell off the side and been abandoned. Got some scenery and some overgrowth in here now. Obviously we've got the forklift that you've seen in the previous videos. And we've got the ground levers in place, probably need to weather them down a little bit. I'm going to be working on this water crane next. I've got this in a bundle of stuff I bought, so I'm thinking of putting some heat shrink over this copper bar to replicate the hose and then give it a bit of a paint job. I'm not sure if it should be a Midland colour or not really, with it being on a private line. So perhaps I'll just do that grey and weather it up, get some white dust on it. So I'm sure some of you guys will recognise this old Lima controller. I figured it was perfect for wiring up my lights. So these Westhill Wagon Works lights have got their built-in resistors. So I thought I'd figured I'd use it on here, and then I can adjust the brightness accordingly by turning it up and down. So as you can see, I can turn it up just a little bit to get some brightness, and then turn it up a little bit more, up, down, just to change the brightness. So I thought that was the most simplest way of wiring it up for me. So I've just used some bullet connectors and used them as droppers going onto a main bus, and then I can unplug the lights themselves if I ever want to take the model off, or if I want to upgrade the bus wire if I decide to go a bit further around the layout. I haven't got to unsolder anything. So as I was mentioning before, I've just got this cheap pack of heat shrink. Got this from a local supermarket. Here's the brand here. And just to replicate a hose, I think I'm going to glue this on here. Perhaps get some white on it. Cover up some of these part numbers on there, but I think that should work. So I'm just going to give this a bit of a paint job. There's obviously a bit of a tap or something here, so I don't have to go a bit of silver on it and try and get it a metallic-y sort of look. We'll paint the tap or this hose red just to give it a bit of detail. We'll put the hose on. We'll ballast it in, some weeds around the bottom of it. Hopefully that should look in place. So this is where I'll be working next. Starting to get some scenics on here. Well, I've just done an extension of about 80mm, which doesn't sound a lot, but the reason I've done it is just to be able to get a wider shot. So rather than being here, I've just got that little bit more. And as you can see from this perspective, I've now got just a little bit more to come over a bit. So what I'm going to be doing next is getting the modelling sheet on, shaping it how I want, and there'll be plaster Paris in, extending this dry stone wall up to the end of the new part of the layout now. Laying down some scenics, perhaps going to build a little farmer's shed or something, you know, like an old worn out one with the tiles blown off the roof and maybe the rafters coming through. That's sort of the idea I've got at the moment, and maybe some rock works up here and a rambler's path. You can probably maybe a barrow crossing here and put a gate somewhere here with a path going up to a peak that's somewhere up here with some stones on the top. That's the idea I've got, so that's what I'm going to be working on next. So what I'm going to have a go at doing first is I've just got some 2B1 and I'm going to try and have two peaks. So I'm going to put one here and one here before I put the modelling sheet down. So I'm going to have two lumps that are two sort of peaks, and I've taken some inspiration from Rough Tor, which is on Bodmin Moor, which is quite local to me. There's a couple of tors that are quite close to each other and they've got some rockfall around them, and I'm taking the inspiration from that. It's very similar, sort of Dovedale and the Derbyshire Dales. So that's what I'm going to do first, is screw these down, cut the modelling sheet, and then see if I can make some tors over these bits of timber. So I'm just starting to shape this modelling sheet before I cut it. So I'm going over the first tor first. I'm just going to roughly get it where I want it, making sure I've got enough on this far edge, and then we'll put an overlap in it here. I'm going to draw around it, cut it out, and I'm going to use hot glue to glue it in. You could screw it or staple it like Martin from WWS does. I noticed he uses a staple gun. I don't have one. I've got a hot glue gun. That seems to work plenty fine for me. And then we'll just blend plaster Paris in on this edge, modroc it all in, and then we'll be ready for some scenics. So I'm just using scissors and I'm just trimming along as I go. So I'm just going to take this corner off so it's not over the wall. And don't worry about wasting stuff like this, because it isn't a waste. It's great for putting little contours in. So if I wanted to put some little humps in here, you can just fold this into the sort of shape you want, put it down, and it will just give you another contour. This is what I've done over here where the cattle are, and in the exchange sidings I've just used little bits just to take that flatness off the board. So all these little bits will come in handy either around the edges here or in another part of the layout. So I've got my first tor in place, as you can see here. So I am going to use hot glue, and I'm going to do this back edge first, get this quite as neat as I can, and then worry about going around the edges last. And you can see you can remove it, holds its shape. So that's all hot glued into place now. I've got my two tours, I've got one here and then the low spot and then into another tour. To be fair, it's pretty solid already before it's even had the modroc. We don't need to worry about these lips because when we use the plaster Paris we'll lose this lip, and if we then have to, we can use just some filler to blend it in before we put the scenics on. But just wanted to show you again just how easy that stuff is to use. So that's all the modroc on. It's already going off. It's only been on about 10 minutes. So I'll let that dry overnight and start putting a brown ground coat on it next.